so brushes in Procreate can be found by tapping on the brush icon, and you'll notice that they are separated into all these different categories. So you've got some cool paint brushes, the sketching brushes have pencils and pastels and crayons, and you can scroll inside of these brushes to see more. So don't forget to check out all of these. There's a lot of hidden brushes in there, and the brushes that come in Procreate are really fantastic. You can customize all of them. You can adjust all of the different settings. You can get a lot of control over them. I love the brushes that come with Procreate, but I do want to mention one brush maker, and that is Lisa Bardot. She makes some really great brushes. I use her gouache brushes all the time, and unlike most of the brushes on the market, I find that hers are very unique. They are able to do something that I am not able to mimic by just adjusting the settings in Procreate with the brushes. So I really recommend checking out her store. So I want to show you some of the power that these Procreate brushes have. So I'm going to use the flat marker in here, and if I draw really lightly, I'm going to get really thin lines. But if I push hard and I draw really heavy, you'll see that it gets bigger and darker, just like if I was pushing harder on a marker. So the amount of pressure that you use with the Apple Pencil can affect the brushes. Likewise, the actual tilt of your brush. So I'm going to use the pencil here. This can also affect the brush. So if I use it straight up and down like this, I get, like a pencil. But if I use it on its side, like if I was going to be shading with a pencil, check that out. It's really like I'm actually shading with a pencil. So like I said, these are all settings that you can control on any of these brushes. So if I tap on the brush that I want to modify, you'll see down here there are several different tabs as well. This pencil brush, that's what is the Apple Pencil. That's where you can control the pressure and the tilt and what happens when you push harder or when you tilt the pencil. I'm not going to go over all of these settings right now, but one extra thing that I did want to go over is the stroke. This streamline setting, for those of you who like to letter, this is kind of magic. So it's hard to explain, you kind of have to feel it, but I'll try here. So if I pump this all the way up and I come out here and I try to do these nice loops, I don't know if you can kind of tell, it kind of like slows it and snaps it. It kind of smooths out all of those curves. It's really just magic for lettering. So a cool trick, let's say I want to erase all of these marks that I just made, but I don't want to undo everything. I'm going to take 3 fingers and I'm going to wiggle them side to side, and it erases that layer. So that's a handy little trick. The next thing we're going to go over is size and opacity. So I'm going to use a painting brush, my flat brush in here. And the easiest way to control size and opacity is with these sliders. So this slider controls size, and as I go lower on the slider, my brush size gets smaller. Let's do like a medium size here. And for the opacity, I'm going to switch the colors so it's a little bit easier for you to see what's going on here. So if I have my opacity right here set all the way to 100%, and I come on there, that's what the full opacity of this brush looks like. And if I knock it down a lot lower, you'll notice that it kind of makes this look a little bit purpley. So opacity is just a fancy word for meaning, is it see-through or not? So when it's fully opaque, I can't see through it. But if you take a close look here, this is actually a little bit see-through. So that's because the brushes in Procreate have all different settings for opacity, and they can be controlled from a whole bunch of different places. So the first place I want to show you is in the general settings. So you'll see there's size and opacity limits here. So if I take my opacity limit and I say I want it to be 100%, the minimum amount that you can use is all the way up to maximum. And I come in here, it's still a little bit transparent. So that's not my settings. Another area that you can adjust this is in the pencil. So the amount of pressure that I use can also affect the opacity, same thing with size, and the tilt. So let's try that. No, it's still a little bit transparent. So let's check out dynamics. Now these settings here, the brush rendering, this is all about trying to mimic wet paint. And you can see there's opacity dynamics and size dynamics in here, and each of these settings has slightly different versions of these opacity and size dynamics. But I want to bring your attention to the accumulative. So let's just try turning that on. And bingo. So there you can see that is totally opaque. You can't see through it at all, whereas on that one you could. There is one other place that you can adjust opacity, and that is the stroke taper right here. So you can play with the opacity and size here. So just to say that with the size and opacity, there's a lot of different places that you can adjust it. So make sure to check those settings out in your brushes if it's doing something that you're not expecting. So what if you want to draw a straight line? I'm not great at drawing straight lines without a ruler. So all you gotta do is draw your line and hold it, and it's gonna snap. That's called quick line. It's just gonna snap. And you can move that around however you like. But what if you need it to be exactly straight with the canvas or exactly straight up and down with the canvas? Take one finger and hold it here, and it's gonna snap in 15-degree increments, and you can control exactly how far it goes. Now, as a bonus, if you hit that transform tool immediately after you've created that straight line, you can come back in here and adjust it. Now, remember how I modified the streamline in this pencil? If I want to reset my pencil so that it goes back to all the original settings, I can hit reset. And it's gonna go back to all the original settings. But that only works on pencils that come out of the box with Procreate. So let's say you wanted to actually save these settings. We'll just say that's like a totally different pencil. What you can do is you can come in here, you can swipe it to the left, and you can duplicate it, all right? Now see this little icon right here? That means that it's a new pencil. You can see I have several of these. I have lots of adjusted brushes. Now, if I come in here and I mess with the settings that come with it, and I just do something so it does something completely different than what I'm used to, if I come back into that adjusted pencil, I can't reset it. So only the brushes that come with Procreate can be reset. So that said, you're probably just gonna want, if you do wanna mess with these settings, or if you wanna save a particular set of settings, duplicate your brush first. And where you duplicate it, you can also delete it.